Yo,
You got me?
there we go. How are ya?
Hey, good, Jen. How are you?
Good. It looks like where you are doesn't suck. Where are you?
Well, we're actually in Arizona.
Nice,
We
nice.
were Michigan was getting it's been a bad spring. It's been kind of cold, so
Really
we had an opportunity to jump out here for a week. So we came out here and we got
nice.
some warm weather.
Nice.
Yeah,
Nice. I'm gonna start with like the outdoor venues,
I
you
know.
know?
I know.
So
I think everybody it's going to be for sure slow going,
yeah.
And I think we're a little similar too. Our governor's been pretty strict. We still actually are under a stay at home order
Oh, really?
until end of the month.
Wow,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
we've just been basically hiding out,
Yeah, I know.
and learning how to do more of these kinds of meetings.
Exactly. Yeah, I didn't even really know about Zoom
I know.
until
But we've also been kind of talking about there's going to be some good takeaways from all this because you start to kind of ask yourself if you get on an airplane and fly to Texas,
yeah.
10 times to go see
Right.
Benny Keith, could you get away with five of them on Zooms and five of them personal visits and still have just as good a relationship and save all that travel money?
Totally.
So I think you're going to see companies come out with a little bit of a different model
Totally. Yeah.
um, that's a little more efficient
Yeah.
because I think we all make fun of our kid. I know my generation, we look at our kids that just sit there and stare. They'll break up with their boyfriends on a text and
Right.
shit like that. And I'm like, you gotta talk to, you gotta, be, one on one in person. And now I'm kind of scratching my head and thinking, I wonder if they got this kind of down because
Yeah.
they might actually have something like I can see their generation growing up and taking it to a whole nother virtual level.
Well,
So
especially right now, since all the kids are on their smartphones all day because the parents have to work,
I
they
know.
can't go to
And
school.
that's it. That's it. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's been interesting. I mean, it's weird because I think it also kind of made I think a lot of people realize that um, perhaps as a society we waste a lot of valuable personal time
Mhm.
through this thing called work
Yeah.
because
Right.
because I think we found that I'll have days where I'll have maybe 3-4 hours of Zoom meetings and I'm done and I've got everything accomplished that I needed to get accomplished. And then you
Wow.
still have half your day to go and hang with family and, do other things in life. And it kind of makes you scratch your head and think, when you go in the office from 8 in the morning till 5, 6 at night, a lot of times you're listening to, you know, Michael Bell ramble on something that he did over the weekend. It's kind of like, what are we doing?
That's
So
yeah. Well, it's
it's
interesting too because it's funny that to me because I've almost not well since at least since I worked for Harry, I've almost always worked from home, right? And
yeah,
some people say they can't do that,
yeah,
but more and more
yeah.
people.
Your world, it's pretty simple. Yeah,
Yeah, totally, totally. But still, for some people, it's a size like Jordan. You've met Jordan. He's our one of our
yeah.
editors. He always goes into the office, even though he's the only person there.
Really? Okay.
He's the only person, literally. Like we actually have a large office in San Antonio, like a multi-room large office and a really
Yeah,
nice. And he's the only one that ever goes in there. But he says some people are like that. Like to be productive, they feel like they have to be in an office setting, and I just feel sorry for them. You
yeah. I
know.
know. I think you need a quiet space, but I don't know if it technically needs to be a different address.
Agreed. Yeah, I mean, think of all the money that could be saved.
I That's what I'm just. That's the we're kind of doing some aggressive work while we have this time to we're calling it Founders 2.0, which is
Right.
what what is the most efficient business model that we can put together for kind of what the new norm looks like, because I think we've got a two-phase problem here. One is coronavirus, but there will come a day that there's a vaccine and that concern goes away, but then we're going to have maybe even a longer period of time of an economic mess.
Right.
And that'll be phase two. And then, what does that look like? I don't see life, even in our industry or any industry, just going back to February,
Right. Yeah.
not for years.
Yeah.
You know?
You guys were kind of already working on something like that, right? I mean, it was like a corporate culture deep dive type thing, right? Or
Well, we've gotten, you know, quite a large initiative into our on the diversity and inclusion side. We fired a firm that's got a 3-year contract with us that works with large corporations to it's an approach that I really fell in love with, because it was not I think sometimes when people say diversity and inclusion, it's like, oh, this is a result of a problem that you've had. And I think the way this is being handled with this consulting firm, it's quite the opposite. It's kind of developing a business model and an understanding that's all inclusive with company wide, that, you know, the more we can attract to a multicultural society, the more our products can be made aware within those, you know, cultural societies that exist that perhaps we're not selling beer to, you know, whether it's the, you know, the Asian market, a Latino market, you know, whatever. We don't think that way always. And the more you do, the more it just opens up your product base for the world. And I think in this kind of, you know, we were just talking about the internet and social media and globalization. I think those opportunities are there. We just have to better understand how to get them. So we have been working on that. And that was an initiative that started, you know, a year ago, but I guess I'm speaking more precisely to, you know, post COVID and
right.
what does business look like? And you know, we're really scratching our head and asking ourselves, does craft beer in general have the most efficient model to bring beer to the market? My theory is no. I think we're very cumbersome in how we sell beer and how we take beer to market because of who we are and how we grew up doing this. We were, you know, hobbyists, we were home brewers, and we were people very connected and, you know, to each other and love to, you know, bring it to the street, you know, one bottle at a time, and try this IPA and try this one with this hops and this one with this hops. And though it was the right thing to do at that time and place, I think that we're going to and I speak, as always with you, more about breweries that are, you know, maybe 400, 500,000 barrels and up. You just are, I think it makes sense to really start thinking about efficiencies in your model and taking out some of those rather cumbersome practices that we all have. So we're, you know, do we have the answers? No. Are we working towards them? Yes. And our hope, our desire is that we'll have a different, more efficient business model when we're completed with this, and you know, we can be leaner and stronger and more equipped to handle what the new norm might be.
So does that mean like less SKUs overall? Does that also speak at all to, you know, how big your taproom business is, or even, you know, your distribution model? Does it encompass all that, or is it more just like we're getting too cute with 500 SKUs, right? Like,
yeah, I think it's all encompassing. I think it's evaluating every segment of your business and understanding the profitability of each of those segments and making sense of them. So you dissect that. I think it's really understanding where your business comes from and where you should be, you know, kind of putting your energy, you know, both from a staff position to also a financial position. You know, are you selling 35% of your volume through chains? And then is, you know, 80% of your staff dedicated to selling in the independent channels? You know, you got to look at these kind of ratios and questions, and, you know, there's always nuances within that where you've kind of gotta, you know, be present in these areas. But sometimes I think we think about what I guess is the right thing or the way things should be, but we don't necessarily always evaluate whether that is correct or not.
Right.
So we're trying to evaluate whether those kind of what the craft standard model has been that we know for the last 20, 30 years, and evaluate whether there's a better way to do it.
Yeah.
And because I do think the new norm is going to be different. I don't, unfortunately, you see a lot of, the stories in the economy, and we all saw the very scary and ugly, unfortunate one about our industry that came out. I think it was like maybe 46%, surveyed said that they got 1 to 3 months, so I, in my head, I kind of look at that and say, if that's something, whether it ends up being that or not, it's going to be something destructive.
It's going to be thousands.
And yeah, if that's going to happen in our industry, you get kind of naive to think that it's only our industry. I mean, we're probably, representative of all other industries. So that's pretty much what could be a landscape. I'm not saying 46% of all the small businesses go out of business, but I do believe that a good percentage will. And when I say a good percentage, I mean good enough to cause damage. And, as you start to look at, all the people, the millions of people that lose jobs and all the businesses that can't survive, it's going to take a while before others can step up and new entrepreneurs come in to restart that engine and then rehire those folks. With unemployment looking, where it kind of could land, I think you're still going to be in this world of, I think, people looking for quality and value, reliability, consistency, and this is where we're looking at, I guess, what we do as something that we need to continue to focus on, which is, call it our 15 packs and, all day, and kind of our national presence, and continue to market value, quality, consistency, familiarity. And I think your brands like that are probably going to, not just Founders, but anybody that kind of plays in that space will probably do well over the next several years, because we're going to have a bruised economy.
Right. Well, let me ask you, about right now, and obviously those things you were talking about, reliability, trusted brands, larger packs are doing really well right now, right? I mean, you guys were already, things like All Day were already doing well, and now I would assume even better. Are there any trends you can share? 15 pack All Day is still trending strong. What about like solid gold 24 packs? Are those doing well too?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I've got some numbers here that I've written down for you so I can get them exact. Because basically all our 15s are doing well. The real, volume is coming obviously from All Day and Centennial. And if I look at, you got with this, I'm kind of looking at the COVID periods here. You've got All Day's up 51%.
Oh, wow.
And All Day 15 pack. So I'm just giving you a 15 pack kind of number. And then Centennial's up 84%. So we've got, tremendous growth happening in those 15 packs. Now, All Day, up 52% on quite a large volume, is obviously really kind of pushing our limits in production. So it's an interesting time, because, I was on an executive call this morning. We were talking, our last several weeks of orders have been kind of basically putting us on a brew schedule for about 850,000 barrels.
Wow.
If you were to annualize it. But our actual forecast, we're going to lose money this year. Not lose money, I'm sorry. We're going to be at a loss over previous year in terms of what our overall revenue looks like and what our profitability looks like. strictly because we've lost so much in other areas. I mean,
Right.
we virtually have zero on-premise business, and we have 2 tap rooms virtually shut down. So though we're brewing, you know, quite a bit in our 15 packs, it will, we're kind of looking at this year and saying we're probably going to finish um, where we did the previous year in terms of barrel
Right.
output. We see kind of being flat, which we're happy about, quite honestly, because it, you know, for us to be flat, um, you know, in total volume during a time like this is, you know, I think, you know, the testament to the brand and the pack sizes that we have and then what we're selling. So overall, we're happy with being flat.
So yeah, okay, that was another question, because I think, Lester had done a fintech presentation a few weeks ago, and I don't know if you saw this. It did like a snapshot of some of the leading craft and what their share of like on
Yeah, I
premise
did.
was. Yeah, and so you guys were a little less for on premise,
Yep.
and you had gained share among craft in the last, COVID shopping weeks. Is that because I know that's a snapshot, right? It's not your
Yeah.
actual. Are you
Well,
that you're kind of getting, I mean, because of these big packs, that sort of thing, gaining share because that's what people are buying right now? Or
yeah, we you know, we did feel very, I guess, fortunate out of misfortune. Misfortune meaning we didn't have a huge draft presence in terms of
right.
our overall percentage. We were running around 15% of our total output was in draft. But yes, it did, you know, ultimately lend itself well for what we're going through with this particular period. But you know, that's where we kind of look at this and say this is a good opportunity for us to kind of redesign how we go, you know, to the marketplace and how we conduct business. You know, do we obviously we get to reset here with our on-premise efforts. So how do we design that? Do we want it to be at 15? Do we want it to be more? Do we put more in the team to make that happen? We do feel that the 15s, we're fortunate, you know, with all day being up over 50% and Centennial pushing, you know, 90%. We see that trend lasting because of what we talked about. I think you're going to have a bruised economy. You're going to have hesitant people going into retail. You're still going to want grab and go. You're still going to want quality paired with value. So we think we're in a good position to both weather the storm through this period and what the new norm might look like after COVID has a vaccine. So yeah, we think we're in a good position, you know, with that and to, you know, answer that question. Yeah, I mean, having a low volume presence with draft, you know, kind of helped us weather this storm.
Mhm.
I think, you know, in total, we might have had maybe 100,000 barrels, you know, in draft. So I was telling the team that for us to be looking at a forecast this year of breaking even on total volume, knowing that 100,000 barrels has been removed with draft
Yeah.
and probably 6,000 barrels out of our tap room, um, you know, if you just put draft back to where we normally were, we've got some accelerated growth here.
Right.
So I see that carrying forward. So we're looking positively to what the future will look like, because I think this ultimately is going to change buying habits for years
Mhm.
to come, and I think it's going to change the landscape of craft. I think it's going to look a little more focused. Um, you know, the days of maybe 3 aisles of craft 6 packs and, you know, 75 different IPAs to pick from, that's
Yeah.
probably going to get thinned out.
Right.
And you're hearing it from retail, you're hearing it from wholesale, and you're hearing it from supplier side as well. So I think we see the new, you know, craft 2.0 to be much more focused in its product offerings, and on the larger breweries maybe dialing in a little bit on value as well.
Mhm. Interesting. So if I'm hearing you correctly, obviously you guys will be flat on volume, which is incredible considering, 20%,
Lost.
15% of the business was lopped off, but less profitable, right? Or
Yeah, less profitable, for sure. Um, and we've had to to make some cuts to even be less profitable. So without giving you numbers, we'll, from a profit position, we'll be down. Geez, let me send that to you. I want
sure.
to say, I mean, we could be 20-30%.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I'll
Uh,
I'll follow up with some detail on that for you.
so are you guys starting to prepare to open some on-premise accounts in your tap rooms, right? Like, do you know when over the next weeks or months and how you'll open those back up?
Yeah, we are. Our governor's been pretty strict. We're actually still through the month of May in kind of that homestay
Mm,
state, and so we're at a little bit of the mercy of when we can open, based on what the state says, what the governor says. We're putting together plans, and just in terms of what that will look like, and it's pretty, I'd say, typical to what we're seeing throughout the U.S., which is minimizing exposure, better sanitation, as far as capacity goes, pulling that back, to give that social distancing, to people. And we're developing that plan right now. But as far as when we can, I think everybody kind of keeps assuming, well, next month, well, next month, well, next
right.
month. So
Yeah.
I,
Yeah.
I think we're all hoping there's some relief in June,
Yeah.
but we'll see,
Yeah.
what happens there, and what's said. And that said too, you feel terrible for. It's a tough situation because if we're definitely more 90% of our our revenues come from distribution, and so obviously we're more of a manufacturing company than a retail. Um, but you just feel terrible for the overwhelming majority of our whatever 8,000 breweries are more or less retail. um, you don't really build a restaurant or bar to function at 25-30%
Exactly. Yeah.
output. In fact, you go bankrupt if you're
Yeah.
working at that level. So I don't, a lot of these states are opening, but at 30%, what are you really doing? How do you make sense of keeping your head above water? So that's a struggle as well that I think we're going to have to watch and see how that develops. But I don't think they can survive at that rate for months and months and months. So part of this is not just state government making decisions, but I think the bigger question really is the consumer.
Mhm.
What's the consumer is ultimately going to dictate the success or failure of these small businesses, because if the consumers are hesitant to go in, it doesn't matter what your governor says.
Right. Totally. Oh,
It
yeah.
really doesn't.
Yeah.
If only 30% of us show up at restaurants for the next 6 months, then we're going to have some significant problems.
Yep. Yep. So, but how have your keg returns logistics fared? Because I know you guys did
Yeah.
50 splits, right? Do you have an eye toward how big those returns are going to be and like how smoothly are they going?
Well, it's a process, right? And we just got started, but yeah, we're covering 50%. I think you saw most of us larger breweries kind of all do something within that range, with maybe exception of a couple. But for us, it's $1 million
Yeah.
problem.
Yeah.
There's no way around it. So we've budgeted about $1 million expense to help clean it up. Um, we're working right now. I know we just talking to our head of sales. We do have beer out there that's in code, so that beer will kind of move around and get it into places that are opening and into top accounts and things like that. So, the million is kind of what we're budgeting, and we try to improve it. But, it's an ugly part of the business, and every one of us has to deal with it. There's no good way to deal with it.
Yeah. No, I know. I thought it was Michigan, maybe not, but one of the states, I think, or maybe it was just an area that they weren't able to actually pick up the kegs yet because none of these places had been open even for that sort of thing, But
Yeah, no, they were completely shut down. And then if you own, so if you own a bar or a restaurant that you've been told you have to shut down, you're not going to keep your cooler on to keep the beer
right.
cold.
Yeah,
Pay
right.
for that and pay for those utilities. So everything just turned off, lock the door, walk away, and everything gets warmed up, and it's just it's a bad scene, but
It'll
it
be
would,
interesting in a month. So
I know. Yeah, I think you got a lot of bad beer out there. We're just gonna all have to bring it in and you know
go
pay
from
to have it removed properly and move on.
Yep. Yep.
But
How about packages though? Because obviously you're talking about big packages selling really well, and that being the new norm, and yeah, that makes sense. But I know a lot of people are tight on packages, right? Balls had some shortages, that sort of thing. Are you guys okay on that? Your supply's all good, and the new 16-ounce cans too coming out, right? That's all. That's all good and secure.
yeah, supply's been pretty good. We haven't been running into concerns there. So we've been pretty happy about it. We're kind of chugging along with the innovation pipeline that we had in place. Still looking to launch on the schedule that we had. Now we wouldn't have launched anything that should we have had something launching a couple months ago. But as far as this summer goes and fall and our plans, we're sticking to the calendar. But yeah, supply has been fine thus far.
Good, good, good.
I think
And
the
go ahead, sorry.
I think the can side is the only for us. I think we make sure we have a good relationship, and we're moving through so
Right.
much volume now that I think it helps.
Yeah, yeah, prioritize. Um, so, but you said things are still on the same pace. So retailers are still receptive to things like, you're rolling out Unraveled IPA, right? A new juicy
Yeah.
IPA. They're still, because you're a known brand, they're happy to get that or.
Yeah, but I would definitely say retailers aren't um looking for new SKUs. Yeah, Unraveled was a new one that kind of came out um just prior so to COVID and things, and was underway, so it just kind of was something that was happening. So but other than that, as we talk to retailers, the feedback we're getting is reduction. They are, as they look to fall sets and as they start to think about spring sets, our feedback has been more on reduction and focus from them than anything. So I don't see as an industry us kind of all getting back aggressively and quickly to multiple launches throughout the year of different small kind of pack size, 6-pack stuff and things like that.
Right, right. And how about KBS? You guys had already made that year round, right? This year that was
Yeah.
underway. How's that faring right now? I mean, I would think
Yeah.
that's a known brand, right? So
Yeah. I mean, overall, our barrel aged beers are performing how we wanted or needed them to. But admittedly, the KBS launch or kind of the turn on switch of year round, which we were planning to do some marketing behind, we kind of stepped back from that because that was right on top of COVID.
gotcha.
So we've just kind of let it, do its own thing. And I would say that it definitely was not as impactful as we were hoping.
Yeah.
because of the virus.
And is the price point just too high, or not necessarily, right? Because we're still seeing.
No. Price point's not too high. It's actually lower. I think, once we get to a place where, we're kind of looking at our barrel age a little differently as well. I think over the last couple decades, we've seen barrel age go from a place, that we all lived in, and as it got pushed quite a bit and started to feel its way towards a little more of a mainstream drinker, we started to realize there was a ceiling there, and people started having to pull back a bit. So we're actually looking at what is a reasonable volume for our barrel aged programs, and we're not interested in pushing barrel aged. We're interested in having it strictly pulled, because we enjoy making those beers. It's kind of where our roots definitely got started. And we want it to be appreciated and enjoyed by those like us that really understand it and appreciate it and enjoy it. And we don't want to be pushing it to people that might or might not get it.
Right.
So that means for us, we'll probably have a little lower volume, which is fine.
Yeah. Cool. And then I guess my final question, and I'll let you go bask in the Arizona sun there.
I could go hiking somewhere.
Yeah, right? Nice.
Yeah.
With, unfortunately, the reality of a lot of craft breweries, needing lots of capital infusions right now, any chance you guys in Mao would go shopping this year or next? I mean,
we've always said we would always be willing to look at opportunities, and we still are. But right now it's kind of like the markets. There's a lot of ups and downs, and there's a lot of pitfalls, and there's success and failure that's probably more jagged and destructive right now. That I think a more prudent approach is to kind of step back and watch the landscape for a bit and let things kind of settle. And no one knows where the bottom is yet, and I think it's probably prudent to, as you look to purchase, you should probably know that, where that bottom is and where that ceiling is. And right now it's just so up and down, it's hard to predict. So, the short answer, I guess, is yes, we'll look at opportunity. Are we aggressively looking right now? No.
Right. Yeah.
We gotta let things settle out. And, I'm really, we're really enjoying kind of this design of, the new craft, the new norm. That to me is quite challenging, and I think quite honestly, maybe the largest opportunity we've seen come along in craft in the last couple decades. So, those who kind of design, I think, right, and create a model built for the new future, I think could see some really, really tremendous success. So we're kind of trying to put our brain power there.
Yeah. Value craft delivered to your doorstep, right?
Something like that. I don't know. I mean, there is a whole new way of thinking that has developed for business, even outside of our industry. So I think this isn't just about, as I say, Founders 2.0 it's not just about a better way to sell beer. I'm saying it's a better way to sell your product, run your business, look at your top line, look at your bottom line, really understand what you need, why you need it, and when you need it. Really understand, how you go to market in terms of how I sell to you, how I communicate with you, why I sell to you. Should I not worry about selling to you? And just dissect everything.
Yeah.
And in every little lane, you have a conversation about make sure that lane is the most efficient way of delivery that it could possibly be. And there's a lot to that, but I think as people start to think that direction, that you're going to see businesses operate differently, but it's going to be much more efficient.
Well, I hope you guys come out of this stronger, and glasses.
Oh, hey, thanks.
Make you look like Brad Pitt.
Right, yeah. Maybe a little more gray hair.
Depends on the movie, you know?
Yeah, right.
Thank
All
you.
right. Well, how's the little one? Are you guys?
Yeah, I'm amazed they didn't come running in. You may have heard them in the beginning. So they were at daycare and well slash school. I mean, now the 4-year-old goes to basically school, and my daughter was in daycare.
Right.
And we pulled them out, I guess, toward the middle or the end of March.
Okay, so you did, yeah.
Yeah, but we've had a nanny come, and they
Yeah.
have some online classes. Even the 2-year-old, of course.
Really?
Yeah.
How's it two? I didn't.
I mean, I know.
There's like preschool for 2-year-olds.
Yeah.
I didn't know.
It's songs.
Okay, that's cute.
And yeah, so I mean, it's been okay. I don't think they're going back in the fall. You know, I just right now.
You think fall they'll say no to fall too?
I don't know, man. I mean,
We're starting to see that.
yeah,
California announced
yeah, exactly.
fall is canceled, and
Yeah, the biggest public school college system, right? Is that what something
Yeah.
like that? Well, that's when I thought it yesterday. When I heard that, I was
Yeah.
like, crap, I don't know if my kids are going to be able to go back to school. And especially at their age,
No.
they are always sick. Always. So
Oh,
if
I
it's
know.
out there, they're going to get it. And even though it might not be bad for them, which despite all these
They bring it home. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And then my husband or I might get it, you know? So
I know that's the hard part is, you know, the herd immunity concept or hideout. And I mean, I don't, when it comes to that stuff, I don't really have the answer. I just,
you mean you're not a doctor like everybody else?
I know. I watch the news. I laugh at like the political side of it is funny, but yeah, it's crazy. It's going to change our lives until, you know, there's a vaccine. That's for sure. I guess I always say, you know, it's a good time to have a baby or get a new dog though. At least you got that time.
Man, I don't know about that.
You're like, whatever.
I've been having dreams about parties.
I know.
I dream about a giant party. I swear to God.
I know.
All the stuff we just talking about, you know, how much it's changed our lives. Like, it's almost like, oh my gosh, you know, we were living in reckless abandon, going to all these.
I know.
Fun
I hear you.
So,
Crazy stuff. Well, you take care of yourself. If you need anything else, just hit me and I'll get you whatever you need.
Thank you, Mike. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Good to see you, Jen.
You too.
Take care. Cheers.
Bye.